So Ben Shapiro was asked at a college event just yesterday about why he is not a Christian and why he practices Judaism, Orthodox Judaism. Orthodox, it's really just more of a modern word. It just means the Judaism that's been practiced for centuries, the Torah believing Jews since Mount Sinai, basically. And he gave a, very considered response, and I'll show you what he said. And then he went to speak on more about this, what he believes, how it differentiates itself from Christianity, but, explain it in a very respectful way, but explaining what it is that makes Judaism different from Christianity, where it differs, making it clear also that Judaism doesn't believe, like other religions do, that you need to be Jewish in order to have a relationship with God or avoid hell or all these things, which I want to talk about in a bit more detail. But what I found so funny is suddenly you've got people saying online, this is outrageous, Ben Shapiro's mask is coming off. I saw some of those tweets, it's all becoming clear now. Let's see if I can get them. Look at this. Wow, the mask is coming off now. Shapiro, the Goy must obey our medieval Noahide laws. Sure thing, Ben. Duly noted. It's just unbelievable. The mask is coming off. Well, goodness me, he's had a very, very strong mask. I never would have thought that he's actually a practicing observant Jew that's not a Christian, other than the fact that he wears a kippah on his head, as I do, other than the fact that he literally talks about that and says that the whole time. The mask is coming off. Oh, it's just the sensationalism at this point is just, it's so boring. But you know what? Let's look at some of these comments that he made and some of the, there are some good faith questions that people who aren't Jewish or are Christian may wonder about Judaism. I have to say this though, before addressing what Ben had to say. I find it so odd. I guess I'll use that word. It's a very modest word there to use, given what I'm about to say. But it's very odd that some Christians, not all, in fact not most, but some of these Christian commentators online get so worked up when a Jew might say why they don't necessarily believe in Christianity. They're so worried, so concerned. Oh, what do you mean? The Jews are now going to try and control us all with their medieval Noahide laws? There's a whole 1,000-year-long history, I'm afraid to say, as sad as I know many Christians find it, of Christian persecution against Jews. Over 1 million Jews killed in the name of Christianity. I know many Christians will say that what they did was a perversion of Jesus' teaching. Okay, that's not the point. The point is that for some reason, justified through their New Testament, through Christianity, they felt a desire to want to kill Jews, to blood libel Jews, Inquisition Jews, to put them in, to pogrom them, to have crusades against them, to put them in ghettos. Many Christians also choose to love Israel and Jews now today from the same books. I'm not making a blanket statement. My point is, what are you so worried about? How many Christians have been killed by Jews in the name of Judaism and the Torah? And they're so concerned and so worried. I personally believe that the worry, the concern, the obsession, it comes from the fact that this is what anti-Semitism is throughout history. What's the obsession with the Jews? It doesn't make sense. What, we're really that bad? We're that egregious compared to all other peoples and other regimes and organizations? I mean, come on. It's because they know we carry the truth. And people that feel most insecure, jealous, resentful, envious, aggrieved by that, they take it out on us. This is classic psychology. It's classic psychology. The one who is secure in their beliefs doesn't feel the need to impose it on others by force, to shout people down. Anyway, let's have a watch of what happened in this conversation here. I just had to make that point at the start because it does bother me. By the way, if you haven't already, I say this in a lot of videos because it really, really helps our channel to continue to deliver these videos. Please do hit the subscribe button below this video. Like this video, put a little comment. I'll try and respond if I can. And hype the video as well as a new thing you can do to help the channel grow. Anyway, let's have a watch of the start of this conversation.
Convert to Christianity.
She's saying, why don't you convert to Christianity?
So first of all, it's a fine question. It doesn't bother me at all. So first of all, my understanding is that everyone wins 1 million heaven points for the person who gets me to do it. But I mean, the truth is that I believe as strongly in my religion. It's not just that I don't believe in Christianity. I believe as strongly in my religion as any Christian believes in their religion. And so it wouldn't just be a matter of convincing me about the divinity of Jesus. It would be a matter of convincing me that fundamental doctrine of Judaism is actually just wrong. And you have to be converted out of a thing. It's easier, I would say, to move from secular humanism to Christianity. So my friend Andrew Klavan, right, born Jewish, but was a secular humanist, converted to Christianity. Very, very difficult in my case because I strongly believe the things that I believe, and I strongly don't believe the things that I don't believe. And so, if evidence were presented to me that I had totally misinterpreted the Bible, and not only that all of the traditions of my fathers and of their fathers was somehow deeply wrong, it's hard to say what would convince you out of a belief other than evidence. But then people say, okay, well, I'm going to provide you evidence. And then if I say, well, I don't believe that evidence, they say, because you didn't want to believe that evidence, right? So that's kind of the game. So I will say evidence, but the truth is that every religion in the end comes down to some faith propositions, because faith is in its essence about something that is unprovable by evidence. And you do at a certain point have to make a leap of faith about what it is that you believe. And so getting me to leap from a strong belief system into another belief system, it's hard for me to imagine how that could, I have to imagine there would be a world where something like that could happen, but it would be the same as if I asked you what would it take you to convert away from Christianity to Judaism, and say, I strongly believe the thing that I believe because I believe that it's right and because I believe that it's true and because I believe that that's my pathway toward eternal salvation. Right. And so I don't take that as an insult at all, by the way. I'm very happy that there are so many people across the United States and across the world who want to save my soul. Like that's really nice of them. And as I've said to many people, at the end, and when this is all over, either I will have been very, very right, or I will have been very, very wrong. In which case, I will really regret all of those meals that I didn't eat, and all of those commandments that I had to keep. So.
That is so brilliant. I love that. Now I want to talk to you more about what Ben Shapiro, he expounded on this. And what I quite liked was he spoke about what he meant by some of those faith propositions. Because it's not just about, what evidence do you have for the reason why you believe in your particular faith, religion, book. But it's also, what are the propositions? What is the worldview, the ethics behind your faith, your religion? And I want to talk about that because they're two separate questions. So I'll get to what Ben Shapiro had to say in a moment about that. But just on the first point, just so you can understand the Jewish perspective on this. Again, this is really just for people who are looking to understand this. In terms of the question of why I, as a practicing Orthodox Jew, believe in the Torah as the divine word of God, and exclusively the Tanakh, right? Torah, we believe, is the 5 books of Moses, is the direct word of God. In fact, it's God's soul in written form. We actually believe is with the case with the Torah. It's that level of holiness. The Torah and God really are one, as is Israel, by the way. There's this midrash, this Torah commentary that says Israel, really the children, is the direct children, firstborn child of God. Torah is his soul in written form. And then you have, of course, God himself. Why we believe that... just to explain what the Tanakh is. The Tanakh is the prophets and the writings, and those are things that are inspired, divinely inspired. We believe have deep divine inspiration, but they're not a direct word of God. They're written by the prophets of the later centuries and eras. Now, why do Orthodox Jews believe that the Torah is written by God and believe that Judaism is the truth from a rational perspective? There's many different pathways we can go down. The first thing I think is important to note is that Judaism doesn't teach that we need to have blind faith. Ben Shapiro says we can't know anything, with 100% certainty. We can't know anything with 100% certainty. We could all just be in a matrix that we're unaware of. But to the extent that we can know anything to be true, I think there's a very strong rational case that can be made. And Torah teaches us that the verse says, "You shall know this day and take to your heart," meaning you can know, you should know. You shouldn't just believe, have blind faith, but you can have knowledge of God. You can come to know him through rational inquiry. We believe Abraham got to know God through that process. So then, if that's the case, what does faith mean? Faith actually means emunah in Hebrew. It doesn't mean faith without evidence. It means once you have the evidence, are you going to be loyal to that? Faith in Judaism really means faithfulness, because I can know something is true but not be loyal to it. I can know that it's that smoking is bad for me, but continue to smoke 20 cigarettes a day. I don't smoke, by the way, but that can happen. A human being is so capable of knowing things, but using cognitive dissonance to deny that it's true, or find a way to twist things out of reality. So that's point one. Now, from a rational perspective, the first thing is that we met him collectively. This is a narrative that have been passed down throughout our generations. That's what the Seder night is, once a year, where we've had this story of national revelation at Mount Sinai. And what is remarkable is that no other religion or people have claimed to experience the revelation of God as a group with witnesses there and live to tell the tale. And it's amazing that Torah itself says this. At the end of the Torah, it says, which other nations stood before God and heard God speak to them? Every other religion just claims an individual spoke to God or had a revelation of God, but there weren't other witnesses there to verify it. In the case of the Jewish people, it was a national revelation. There were millions standing there. And if that was so easy to forge, to create a forgery of, then why haven't other peoples, nations, religions made a similar claim? More than that, Christianity and Islam don't deny that it happened. By the way, we don't believe that performing miracles is necessarily a revelation of God or a proof that you're right. In fact, the Torah in Deuteronomy 13 warns, if someone performs miracles and then says, right, now follow me and we're going to go against the Torah or go down a different path, don't believe them. God's testing you. He literally says that. So miracles are not the what's the term? The gold standard for whether or not God is providing a direct revelation of his will to us. So that's point number one, which is astounding. In fact, you should know that the Shema, which is the declaration of... In fact, let me show this to you so you can see what I'm talking about. The Shema, which is the most famous declaration of faith that the Jewish people say, meant to say every single day, twice a day. If you actually look at the text, you'll see that there are two letters that are bigger than the others. Let me just get this up for you. Okay, so here is the text, and you'll see the two letters, the last letter, we read from right to left in Hebrew, the last letter of the first letter and the last letter of the last letter are bigger than the others, and that's how it's written in the Torah scrolls, the ayin and the daled. If you put them together, it spells the word aid, witness, because that's the point. We witnessed him, we met him. We met God at Mount Sinai, and that's the primary point. But the second point that we only have been able to now have, looking back on Jewish history, is as we move further away from Sinai, yes, the light of Sinai dims a little bit, but on the other hand, we get to see the incredible divine orchestration of human history. And the fact is that the other thing that's so grounding for me that really set me on my own Jewish journey is recognizing that there's been all these phenomena that have occurred in Jewish history, totally unparalleled, totally unprecedented, extraordinary, and impossible almost when you put them together. And then you have the fact that not only are they completely unprecedented, but they were clearly explicitly prophesied and foretold in the Torah, which we know was written thousands of years ago from archaeological evidence. What are they? The fact that the Jewish people have been, for most of their history, for all their history actually, few in number, intensely persecuted to exterminationist level, unparalleled level, scattered throughout the world, throughout most of their history. Can you think of another nation that's had such a history and survived? But on top of that, they have survived while other nations and empires have come and gone. They've dramatically transformed the world's values. Okay, think about the monotheistic offshoots, children of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So many of the values of the Torah are now embodied in much of the world. America was founded on the Hebrew Bible, according to the founders. And then on top of that, the relationship of the Jews with the land of Israel. They'll be in the land, it will be fertile and flourish. Then they'll be exiled, scattered, and the land will remain desolate. And then at the end of days, they'll return to the land and it will respond to its people and flourish again. All these things are clearly, explicitly foretold in the Torah. Now, to me, what's more rational? That this was written by a human being that was making an educated guess? On what grounds? They had no precedent for that. And what if they got one of these prophecies wrong? Well, then the whole thing would be clearly false. How could they know all this would happen? To me, it makes much more rational sense that it was a being unbound by time that wrote the Torah. And that, for me, I think provides a very strong rational case for the Torah being the divine word of God. But now let's have a look at what Ben Shapiro had to say about some of the fundamental propositions of Judaism and how it differs from Christianity. Because I think that it's, for me, what makes Judaism so compelling is not just the rational case, but why it also sits well in my soul in terms of what it says we're here for.
I'm a Jew. That means that I do not believe in the divinity of Jesus. I also believe, as an Orthodox Jew, that Judaism is not the only path to heaven. Judaism as a religion is not exclusive, meaning that as long as people who are not Jewish follow 7 basic Noahide laws, and this includes Christians and Muslims, they too have a share in the world to come. And those 7 basic laws are things like no blasphemy, don't commit sexual sins, set up a court of law, make sure that you're not eating flesh from a living animal, stuff like that. I'm a Jew. That means that
So, people getting so worked up about this and upset about it, I'm not really quite sure why they find so bothersome. Let's first just unpack a few things. One of the interesting things is that, people say, and they get so upset by the whole chosen people claim and what Jews think they're better than us because they have this unique covenant with God or whatever. And what I find bizarre is that, this whole claim of superiority, Judaism is actually, I would say, fairly unique in saying you don't need to be Jewish in order to have a relationship with God. Other religions say if you don't believe in our religion, you're going to hell. Interesting. What? If I've led a terrible life, but I believe in your religion, then I get a spot in heaven. And if I've led a wonderful, even godly life, but I haven't subscribed to your specific religious doctrine, I'm going to be going to hell. That to me seems abhorrent. But, it actually gets into a deeper point here, which is that the whole paradigm of Judaism, of Torah, is not geared towards getting to heaven. This is the fundamental point. This is why there's such a fundamental difference here. Because Torah taught us that life is not about trying to get to heaven. In fact, in some ways, it's actually a little bit twisted. It's a bit almost abusive of God to say, right, I'm going to create you human beings. Now you better love me or you're going to go to hell. That's not love, actually. That's actually could sound quite abusive. If I say to someone, you better love me or I'm going to make your life misery, is that really love? Real love is, if I love you and you don't love me back, I'm in pain. I suffer. And the revelation of Torah, of Judaism, was actually that God is a jealous God. Meaning God desires humanity, needs us, which makes sense, by the way, because he created the world. It wasn't our doing. How can you suddenly create a being and suddenly say, you are in trouble, you're needy, you're vulnerable? No, it's the creator that needs something. If I create a table, that's because I need the table. The table doesn't need anything. The table didn't need to be here. The only reason the table's here is because I need this table. Well, why would God need us? It's one of the most incredible mysteries. The fact is, though, he does need us. Perhaps it might be because of the first thing he says to mankind. It's not good for man to be alone. It's not good to be alone. Might be perfectly comfortable. God's existence was perfectly perfect. But where's the goodness in a life just for yourself? God desires to share his existence with us, to share a relationship with us. And therefore, the project of Torah, the project of Judaism, is not that we're needy and we need to get to heaven. It's that we're needed and we need to bring heaven down to earth. The project of Torah is to bring God down to earth, to bring him into our lives. It was a perversion of Torah morality to make it all about getting to heaven, being saved. It just becomes nasty. You're in trouble, you're vulnerable, you're need. It's like, no wonder some people say, well, what do I need this for, this religion stuff for? It's just causing me headaches and problems. It's threatening. But don't worry, God loves you. He doesn't need you, but he loves you. What am I, his little pet? People actually, much more they need to be loved, or even respected, is to know that they're necessary, to be needed. Man search for meaning. We need to know why we're here. It's a great compliment to us. We can survive a lot if we just know what we're here for. that we can serve a purpose, a unique purpose. So the radical message of Judaism is that if you're here on earth, stop thinking about getting to heaven or not. That's a perversion. The question is, if you're here, that means you're needed. And Jews have a necessary purpose, and so do the nations of the world. The primary purpose of the Jew is to lead humanity towards bringing God into the world, to teach them the ways of God, to be a light to the nations. The role of the nations, to better the earth, to better the world and make it more comfortable and bring it more closer toward heaven. And for the Jews to bring heaven closer towards earth. That's why we have all these rituals, all these specific things that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Shabbat, kosher, tefillin. Because these are godly things that we're introducing into the world. But if you're here, if you're necessary, then you serve a purpose. And that's why Judaism is much more action-focused, action-oriented, focused on commandments. Yes, we want you to believe because, you need to know who you're serving, who you're having a relationship with. But if you're serving God, and even if you don't know who it is that you're serving, you're still making this world better if you're doing the right things. Or if you have a view of God, but it's not completely aligned with the God of Israel, but you believe in the basic characteristics of who we believe God to be, and you're observing Torah morality, then surely you're going to be serving a productive role and purpose in this world. So far more than being interested in God saving us, we are here really to save his world, to partner with him. God is the first cause, the cause. God creates us because he also wants us to become causes. That's sort of what the snake meant when he said you'll eat from this tree and you'll become like gods. It can be towards evil or towards good. In the good sense, it means that you partner with him, truly become in his image, to bring him and channel him into this world. And that's for all humanity. We're all created in the image of God. So actually, what's interesting is that the 7 Noahide laws, which we believe apply to all humanity, they're the basic building blocks. But actually from those 7 pillars and principles, actually a lot more commandments apply. And I had a fascinating interview with Rabbi Manis Friedman, which you can check out, where he said actually there may well be dozens of other commandments, mitzvot, which we will soon learn apply to non-Jews as well. All the ones that are ethical, that one could realize, that they can make sense of, not gossiping, not embarrassing, giving money to charity, honoring your parents, all these things will apply to non-Jews as well in the future. That was his position, at least. So I think really that, to me, I just think also, not just from a rational perspective, but from an emotional and a psychological perspective, it sits well. We're not interested as much in God saving us or serving us, but in how we can serve him. And how can we serve him unless there's something he needs of us? And I think once you hear that, it's very hard to walk away from that paradigm. I think, well, no, it really is about, God, us being in trouble, and he has to save us and all of that. Because even if you could present to me all the rationality in the world for another faith, if they are operating under that paradigm, there's something that sits fundamentally wrong with that. Now, if any of this has interested you, we actually created a documentary called Heaven, Hell, and the Afterlife, how the radical Jewish view changes everything. We talk about the devil and the Satan from a Jewish perspective, which is radically different to what you've been told, what we mean by the world to come, because actually we believe that the ultimate heaven up there is a temporary resting spot for souls, but ultimately heaven will be down here on earth. That's what Jewish people believe. We believe in the resuscitation of the dead, that the earth will become permanent, earth will become heavenly, and we'll all be resuscitated back to life. What, God puts us through this whole world to build it up and make it more godly for him just to do away with it? So heaven is our temporary retirement home. So again, that's another flaw in the whole obsession with getting to heaven. It's very me-focused. It's not focused on actually what we're here for. So we talk about all these things in the documentary. I'll play you the trailer for it, and I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it already, to check it out on our JTV Plus platform. So I'll play the trailer for you now, and you can watch the full thing by clicking on the link below in the video description. Across the world, the afterlife is described in simple terms. Heaven above, hell below, the devil waiting to tempt you, and a humanity born in original sin. But Judaism tells a story that is older, deeper, and far more hopeful. Less obsessed with fear and more rooted in purpose. A story where the soul is not born guilty, but born noble. Where the body is not the enemy, but the partner. Where the devil isn't God's rival, but his assistant, because Judaism has no second power. Where hell exists, but not forever. Where heaven exists, but not as the final destination. And where the real end of the human story is resurrection, not escape. Judaism views history as a mission, not a mistake. Other civilizations teach that we are here to earn our way into heaven. Judaism teaches that we are here to bring heaven down to earth. And to understand what happens after we die, we first have to understand why we're here in the first place. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to reveal the Jewish vision of life after death. One of the most misunderstood ideas, but if understood correctly, can transform your very understanding of life itself. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.